Hey there! Welcome to the Summer Sunday stream. Today is July 12th, and guess what? Church is open, but
yes,
Chick-fil-A is not, and neither is Breakaway or Edge.
Yeah, we got church today. Some of you are there right now, and some of you are not, and kind of hard to watch this if you're at church.
Be impressive. It is what it is.
And if you're at church right now, you're wearing one of these.
Ooh.
Yes, you are. It's in my Harry Potter mask.
What house are you a part of?
Oh, I'm Ravenclaw, of course. Elizabeth Slytherin.
Not Slytherin, eh?
Gryffindor. Self-diagnosed.
I can see you. I don't know though.
I'll take the test.
Yeah, we'll have you take the test.
Well, you guys probably know this by now. My name is Sam. I am our middle school director.
And I am not Sam. I'm Michael, and I'm our high school director. We miss you guys.
You did it right. We do miss you.
Yes.
But you did do it right.
I did it right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Celebrate good times, come on.
So we don't have Edge or Breakaway right now. We're hoping that will happen soon in some kind of different way. You're just gonna have to watch it and see what that looks like. Pay attention, follow us on Instagram. I'll check your text once in a while. You know the drill.
You know it. As some of you guys know that have been watching, we are in our third week of talking about opinions. And a lot of us have opinions.
I have many opinions, especially with candy bars. Do you like candy?
I love candy.
Dude, I've loved candy ever since I was a kid.
I'm crazy ham face. Now give me some candy.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's crazy newspaper face. I'm crazy newspaper face. And I want some candy. Eat some candy to crazy newspaper face. Come on, extra, read all about me. I need some candy.
All right, so top 3 candy bars that exist. In case you guys didn't know, now you are about to know. For me, number 3, Butterfinger.
Not bad.
Yep,
Reminds me of Bart Simpson.
I agree with that.
Math is easy. Let's say you have 15 Butterfinger BBs, and I take 5 of them. What do you have left? 1 less, sister.
Number 2, Heath Bar.
Instant cavities.
Let me see your teeth. Let me see them. Let me see them.
Probably also correct.
But good.
Yes,
Very good.
Heath Bar is very good. And number 1 for me, this is like when I'm in line at the gas station, in line at the Meijer, in line wherever I'm at, and I see the little candy section. This is what I go for. I'm like, I need some protein. I need some meal because I didn't eat lunch or dinner, so I'm just grabbing a Payday, and it's gonna fuel me for the rest of my life. Payday, number 1.
Those remind me of elephants.
Because of peanuts?
I think so.
You know that it's payday. Boom. Wow. Look at that. So good. 10% of my daily protein right there.
What about yours, Michael?
All right, so I gotta start with the number 1 that I can't have. Okay, so my favorite we can't get right now. It's those. I love those Reese eggs, but they're the ones with white chocolate. You know those like flat ones. Sometimes they're pumpkins too, like in the fall, but it's like white chocolate and peanut butter. It's so good. I mean, the cups are good too, but those are my favorites. So here's 3-1. Here's my favorite for the rest of the year. So number 3 has got to be that Hershey's Gold. It is so good.
Okay.
Number 2 is gonna be that really weird one that I don't know how to pronounce. It's called Toffee.
Never heard of it.
They're so good though. If you haven't tried them, you should. Then the last one, number 1 favorite, absolute favorite, Zero candy bars. Zeros, they're so good.
That reminds me of Hercules.
So we got the Zero right here, Zero bar, so good. We got this Toffee thing, also so good. But I was really bummed. I could not find the Hershey's Gold. I thought they still sold it. So I'm going to have to add this one, which some of y'all probably never even had it. It's called a bun. It was my dad's favorite. It is maple flavored. It's like old man candy, but they basically just took stuff and threw it, and however it landed is the shape of the candy bar. So I'm gonna put all of those three together, and we'll see what that tastes like. I got the zero bar, got the bun. Put that right there. This is a toffee fate. Look, it's got like 4 of them in it, and it's got this little thing right here. It's like a, I don't know what that is. So we'll take and we'll put that together. I'm gonna eat all 3 right there. See if I can. Holy root canal, Batman. It tastes like gingivitis. So good. And all in all, opinions are important to have, right? They help us figure out what we like, what we don't like, and who we are, who we want to be around, who we don't want to be around. And it's more than just candy bars, right?
Yes.
So opinions are opinions. They're never going to go away. And they're not always a bad thing. But here's the thing that can happen with opinions. Sometimes our opinions can lead us to judge somebody else. Just like I could say, hey, I really like this candy bar. I like my candy bars. I think yours are stupid. I might actually judge you based off of your choice.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to.
Or I might judge you based off your choice. Because white chocolate is disgusting.
It is not disgusting. See? Already.
And now Michael is disgusting. Look at that. I think Michael's gross.
Look at that.
I don't think we need a trial. I can pass sentence right now.
Well, it's true. My choice of candy bar has allowed you to label me as disgusting.
Right.
And what we can do is we can actually form some version of a clique. Maybe it's me versus somebody else and I'm my own clique.
Sure.
Or I'll team up with some other people who have the same opinions of me and go against those who have something different. This was one of the worst things that I faced in high school and a little bit in middle school, but definitely in high school. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this. I remember one time when I went from middle school to high school, we changed churches and went to a different church. We went to a different youth group. When I got there, I faced a really tough time because most of those students had grown up in the same church. And it wasn't as big as it is here in Kensington, but that also made it a little even tougher because they had all grown up together. I was somebody coming in from the outside. They didn't know me, and our family didn't know all the church rules of this church. So very quickly, I found myself alone. It was really hard for me to get to know other people because they already had memories together. They already had a relationship together, and I looked and acted differently in church than they did. So that clique was really hard to break through. Eventually, it took time, though. It took me going to them purposefully, and some of them being willing to have some new friends or to hear some different viewpoints on things. Before I knew it, they became my best friend, but it was a hurdle that we had to overcome, and the largest part of that was opinions.
I think that is so cool that you guys were able to grow in that, right? Because at first, there's the roadblock up, there's the hurdle, like you mentioned. When we have those hurdles, when we have our kind of walls up or our blinders up, if you will, we're not seeing a whole person. We're choosing not to see the whole story or the whole person. And so like the people at the new church didn't totally see you for who you were, but also you didn't really get to know them. So there's pieces where you don't get to see who they are.
Right.
And so that's why opinions and cliques are probably going to continue to exist. They exist for us now, I think, but we have to be willing to learn and to get to know a person regardless of their opinions.
Right.
And to see them for who they are. And I would be willing to bet that you guys watching this video have maybe felt these things before, whether on one side or the other, and it doesn't feel good. It feels like we can feel alone, like you mentioned, we can feel attacked, we can feel hurt. And we want people to know us for who we are. You don't want people to think you're something that you're not or about something that you're not. But that's what cliques and opinions can kind of do when we're not willing to get over that first hurdle. So before we go any further, we want you to check out this video, watch it, and see if you make any judgments.
Hello.
Welcome to America's Got Talent. What's your name?
I'm Cody.
Hi, Cody.
I'm Cody D.
How old are you?
I am 22 years old.
Yeah.
Who are you, miss? Who are you?
I'm Mom.
Oh,
I'm
hi,
Tina
Mom.
Lee. Hi, Tina. How are you? So, what are you going to do here for us today?
I'm gonna sing a song for you on the piano.
I love it. Tina, tell us a little bit about Cody.
Cody is blind and autistic.
Wow.
We found out that he loved music really early on. He listened and his eyes just went huge. And he started singing. And that's when I was in tears, because that's when I realized, oh my gosh, he's an entertainer. So through music and performing, he was able to withstand living in this world, because when you're autistic, it's really hard to do what everybody else does. It actually has saved his life playing music.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've been to so many places in my life and time. I've sung a lot of songs, and I made some bad rhymes. I've acted out my life in stages, 10,000 people watching, yeah. We're alone now, and I'm singing this song to you. I love you in a place, oh, there's no space or time. I love you from my life. You're a friend of mine. But when my life is over, song to you. And I'm singing a song to you.
So maybe some of you had seen this clip before, but if you hadn't, I wonder if, and maybe if you think even about the first time you watched it, did you make any quick judgments about what the performance from Cody was going to be like?
I did.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think I did too, or I wondered what was about to happen, right? And then we see what happens and what takes place. But when we look at just the surface level, when we look and we build that opinion, you kind of notice like that was quick and it was unintentional and involuntary. It just kind of happened. But we don't know his whole story. We don't, in those moments, we don't know what he's able to do, what he is capable of. And I think that happens a lot of the times with our opinions of other people, is we're just seeing a really glimpsed piece, or really just a small piece of a person or how they interact with a certain group of people. And we isolate them to a point where we're, again, not seeing the whole person. And the good news is that Jesus has something to say about this, and we're going to take a look at that right here in John chapter 8.
Yeah. So in Jesus' time, the religious people of the day had a lot of opinions. Some people loved Jesus, some people didn't. The more religious somebody was, the more Jesus annoyed them because of the opinions that they had towards themselves, towards others, towards God. And Jesus kind of flipped that all on its side all the time. Because they were so annoyed, they always tried to trap him. And quite often they would use somebody else, almost like a tool, to try to trap Jesus to make people not like him. So this story is all about opinions.
Yeah.
And here's what Jesus did with that.
It says this. It says, at dawn he appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" No one, sir, she said. Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared. Go now and leave your life of sin.
So like the religious leaders here, we often tend to look at others differently from ourselves. And it's interesting, when it comes to pinpointing the stuff in our lives, we want to be very broad and generous with how we see things because we know our full story. But when we look at somebody else, it's almost like we narrow our focus to the thing that we see that's wrong within them. Almost like, it's almost like a funnel, right? So we're wide with grace when it comes to us, but we are very narrow with grace when it comes to somebody else. So what Jesus does here is he flips that. And so he basically tells them to take their microscope and look at their own sin first and be very narrow about the things that they do wrong, yet be very broad and wide about her. And so how we know this is how he responds to her. Because he looks at her and he doesn't even call out the one sin that everyone called out. He just said, go and leave your life of sin. Or go and leave sin behind. So Jesus is very broad with how he speaks to her, but he tells everybody else to be very narrow how they look at themselves. And I think this is something that if we did that, if I do that every day, it will make it really hard for me to form a clique. It will make it really hard for me to judge somebody because I'll have an open mindset to somebody else in their life and know that there's a lot that I don't know. But as far as my own self, I will spend my time pinpointing my own issues instead of going around looking for theirs.
So as we think about this lesson that Jesus gives us here, right, he took a trap and transformed it into a teaching for all of us. And that teaching, that lesson for us is don't be so quick to judge, right? It's get to know people who aren't like you, get to know people who maybe even exclude you, or maybe sometimes get to know people who have hurt you. And I think for all of us, it's important to realize that there are people that we've judged at some point. Maybe you judged Cody Lee in that video, right? At the very beginning, you're like, oh, what is this going to be? Or maybe there's people that are in your life, that go to your school, that are on your teams, that you've judged. I know for me, there have been people that I have judged without knowing the whole story. And it's so important that we know people's whole stories because then we get to know that whole person. And that is what Jesus did for us. That's the example he gave in this picture. He's like, hey, you guys, you Pharisees are just seeing a glimpse. You're just seeing this moment and you're blowing it up and trying to trap me. But here's what's most important for us to know. It's that we're not to judge one another, and it's to know that we all need God's forgiveness. And so when we allow that to be our guide in our life, we're able then to be a true light of Jesus to the people around us, to the people that are closest to us, and maybe to the people who are further off too.
Yeah, so here's your challenge for today, and it is to be narrow, to take some time to be narrow and think inward first. Before thinking about other people, when you come up against somebody who has a different opinion from you, first go inward and think about the things that maybe need to be changed in your own heart and ask the Spirit to pinpoint those so that they can be transformed, and then go outward and be broad with your grace towards somebody else, because this is what Jesus does. And this can happen on an individual level, but also communally we want to see this happen because we want Edge and Breakaway to be places that are safe for others. We want them to be places where people who are completely different from each other can still get along and still look past their own opinions because we focus more on Jesus and living that out.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And when we think about Jesus and what he would, like for me, I always think of like, what would Jesus be doing in this situation? How would he be acting? And so for Breakaway and Edge, for you guys, we want people who you bring, right? If you bring a friend who's coming for the first time, you want them to see Christians, you want them to see Jesus for who he is. And so we want to be doing our part to reflect Jesus in all that we do. So those are your action steps. Those are your challenges, right? Look inward. And then also give a big net of grace to everybody that you know, everybody that you see, everybody you're close to, and that you interact with. All right, so we're so glad that you took the time to watch today. We will see you right here next week. Breakaway, we have Zoom groups right after this. And thank you so much for watching.
Go eat a Zero bar.
Yes, go eat, or a Payday.
Yep.
Or whatever you think is the best candy bar.
Just brush your teeth afterwards.
Brush them after, not before.
Nope, that's gross.
It's the best advice you'll get out there. Maybe not.
Bye.
Just like that. Why is it like 90 degrees in this room?
Because they don't have the air on.
But
I'm
crazy newspaper face. I'm crazy hand on my face.
My hands smell like butter because I've been baking today.
My name, I did it again. And I don't know what's next.